Welcome to the fourth episode of Haramcore Inc. With me here is Noiseware, coming for what is supposed to be the 11th edition of BlackBlood, technically speaking. Yes, it's not been put out as such, but yes, props to Adit, number 11 and counting.
Sweet.
So yeah man, tell me guys, what's been up? How's it going?
Well, I think the first thing would be like specifically talking about this gig because we didn't really have a set plan as to when to play Bombay, but I remember I was trying to line up something in September and I was just like speaking to Jatin from GTP and I was like, hey man, just want to know, are you playing live as a band or are you only like a studio project? He was like, yeah, I'm playing live on the 26th in Bombay.
Right.
I was like, okay, where are you playing? He was like, Habitat. And I was like, oh shit, I was trying to line up a gig with you and us in Bombay at the time.
Okay.
So he was like, yeah, it's BlackBlood, Adit is doing it. And I was like, oh shit, dude, what's the lineup like? And he said it was like 5 bands. I was like, damn, he's not going to have us if he has 5 bands. But then I called him and he was just
it's
very
not,
excited to have us
It's not
on.
very usual for Bombay gigs now to have more than 4 bands on.
Yeah. I think he was just very considerate, to be honest, to have us on. And all props and thanks to him to let us be a part of this.
And he just wants to make sure people have the value for money experience. You buy your ticket, you get to watch what you like,
Yeah.
No, because I'm sure like the audience has a very weird variety to choose from.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was also wondering,
because
whether we really fit the lineup.
No, but there's really everything today because there's like black metal, there's old school thrash, death metal, there's us, there's JTP who's like a solo instrumentalist. So yeah, it's
and there's Festacon who go by the term sexy metal.
Oh, wow.
Is it?
Well, I look forward to it.
They're just a little cheeky. I think what they are like something like System of a Down meets, that humorous metal band attitude that Scribe had.
Right on. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I haven't heard the band.
You should probably check it. They put out an EP like a couple of weeks ago, in fact.
Right.
So not something I found very interesting, but it's a great start, I guess, for the band. They can probably grow from there,
Yeah, I look forward to seeing them today. Absolutely.
We need to. We're running late.
Running late on the gig. But yeah, that's what's been up for us. That the album tour, which is kicking off today, and then we're doing Bangalore, we're doing New Delhi, we're doing Hyderabad, we're doing Pune.
Right.
There's still something in the works for Guwahati, which I'm not actually at this point. I'm not sure if it'll fully work out. But the efforts are on. There's something. Actually, it was a confirmed show, but then something happened, and we had to kind of push it around a little bit. So let's see. But yeah, it's 5 cities either way, if not 6, and we are super excited to be doing it. It's not something that we've done as a band. In metal, a band touring across India or you're doing like 5 gigs in a week is not usual. Usually we play 5 shows a year if you're lucky. So for us to do it in a week is exciting. It's trying to up our musicianship, if you call it, to kind of deliver every day in such a short span of time. Because else you have like 3 months to practice and come play a show, So yeah.
So the one thing, like if this is 2018, if you just dial the clock a little back and go back to 2010. That's when y'all were like a year into just playing gigs and stuff. 2009 to 2010, y'all played a lot of shows in Bombay and Pune.
It was the college festival underground gig scene. So we did. I mean, it was the
and
first
then there was Hammerfest, and then there was I think y'all played a Resurrection Fest also, if I'm not wrong.
I think we did. Yeah.
Like the last one ever that Sahil organized.
Probably. In Pune, in Zaha.
All the venues that Pune has infamously shut down.
I think we played almost all of them, so maybe we're the reason why that's
like
happening.
Graveyard of venues.
Yeah, we've been around for a while.
Right. So the one thing that I personally, so back then being like the new guy on the scene and observing what's around, and I very keenly observed y'all. Right. Y'all have seen me around also.
I remember you were doing the documentary stuff.
So I was trying to just observe and understand what's up, because I really didn't get the music or anything back then. I wasn't into this whole new wave of djent. Let's just call it djent.
Let's call it djent. We're absolutely okay with it.
because
I know people are really like sensitive about this gent thing. Like, don't call me a gent band.
It's like don't call me a deathcore band.
Yeah, we honestly don't care. Gent, deathcore, whatever. It's all good.
Because there was this whole, there was this backlash that people had been. No, we are experimental. Like
Progressive.
Progressive and experimental. And then experimental became a very loosely thrown about word.
I mean, there's the whole thing of progressive and experimental, which is like, I think we played that story for a bit just because we were just like, we don't know. Now, after a point in time, we kind of realized that we ourselves aren't sure what it is. So if people think we're gent. Else, if people ask us right now, like, what do you play? We just say metal.
Right.
Honestly, like, we aren't experts on genres. If it's gent it is, whatever. As long as you like the music, it's all good with us.
But yeah, that aside, like, I remember that y'all are a very industrious band. So that was my one key takeaway, that y'all did a lot of effort and work in those 2 years.
Yeah.
Like basically from playing so many shows to eventually like putting the EP out, putting a single out within 7-8 months after the EP came out. Y'all opened for Meshuggah and Tesseract. You all played at the very first NH7 weekend. I mean, they were great highlights. Like any band would have wanted to be in your shoes back then.
Absolutely.
And in both a good and a bad way, because then you've had a lot of knockoffs, imitations, people who have come, been around, tried to stick around, couldn't find their own identity.
Yeah.
But you all have still now we've come from troll face. And the band that was... So, yeah, the second thing you all were really good at was using the internet.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, things have changed now for Noiseware. I mean, it's not like 2011 Noiseware ab nahi hai.
Yeah, it's completely changed.
Yeah,
completely.
But...
like you said, it was like it's experimental. So we're still experimenting. So clearly like...
Not that you all are not using digital well, because I see that still happening. It's just different now. Back then it was more like, lol speak and... Just fucking with the crowd and I mean that's something bands take themselves too seriously and they don't know how to have fun with what they're doing and everyone then turns into that cookie cutter identity and you all kind of stood out like a sore thumb, right?
Like we kind of did.
At that point,
I mean it was kind of like so much so that if we spoke normally then people would think something was wrong, like are you okay? Because you're not talking in the internet language or whatever, so it kind of like it was a very like an innate part of our identity. As much as the music was, we were like the band who was trolling the internet, and it wasn't something we really forced. We were just like that.
Right.
We were guys who lived on like 4chan forums or whatever the hell you want to call it, and Facebook was new. We all had Facebook was like 3 years old, it was that forum trolling coming onto Facebook, but it was new for everybody who on Facebook because they were necessarily not on forums.
Right.
But for all of us, it was just something we were very familiar with, and people found it funny, which is great for us. It worked, and
and like it even reflected in like how you all approached song titles and things.
Yeah.
So you all had Maut Ki Ungli. And like from that you all have come to clouds at last.
It's been a long ride,
But I think the interesting thing is, even though like our titles and our stuff, the stuff we said was all like in fun, but the music or the lyrics, if you ever seen any of them all through time, were never had any of that stuff. Even if a song was called Troll Face, the lyrics were like,
I know.
The meanings behind it were like far. I mean,
it was like literally like the back in the day, the process used to be that I would write a song or I would write a demo and I'd send it, and whatever I named that first demo would remain the name of the song. So I had some issue during writing Maut Ki Ungli. I think I hurt my like middle finger or something like that, and I was just like, okay, send it to the boys and oh, this is kind of funny, whatever. Same with G String. There was like I had just begun experimenting with DAWs, and there was Fruity Loops, and in that there was a sample of this woman saying, "I'll give you pleasure," and it was this running joke in the band about the G string never being in tune, and it kind of just like I used that sample and I'm like, haha, that's kind of funny. So it was just like the titles were always stemmed from just the first thought that came to my mind.
Or internal jokes and stuff.
Or internal jokes, but lyrically it was never in that space, or it never directly influenced the music beyond the song title, I would say. Beyond the song title, it was just like, okay, we're gonna try and do this musically or try and do this lyrically.
I never saw you all as a lyrical band though. I thought like the vocals were pretty much like an instrument, like how even Meshuggah treats their music. Like I think that's like one commonality you all might share with them.
But I think even though that was the case, we were very percussive in our vocal writing.
Right,
he was
percussive, that's the thing.
Yes.
I think there were like always a lot of attention.
I think like the way it was approached, that everything has to be like, it's all it's got such a unique structure, and it's so what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a hook. It's so precise. So it was just begging for those kind of words and those kind of arrangements to be there in order to like all of it to sound massive. And
a lot of modern progressive bands use that. They're not like poetry writers. Like that's what like metal bands usually do.
Right.
Like they write very lyrical like poetry style, like prose. Or whatever.
I would say it was never like intentional to be like that, but it was just natural.
It fit.
Yeah, it just fit.
That's because your references were such.
Yeah. Probably because like the instrumental, the track was done before, and there was a lot more. I mean, it was all begging to have like those parts there, so that's how it works.
And I think as a band, to your point, you're right that for us, we like for the rest of us, maybe apart from Aman, it would always be like it's another instrument in the sense that how well does it fit in with the structure and the vibe. But I think beyond that, we used to kind of, and we still do give Aman like free reign to kind of pick the message he wants. And then he, of course, when we hear through it, we may have some comments, but apart from that, he really takes it forward into what.
Even from like the EP time, I don't think the approach.
Yeah, it was always like, there's this thing we made. Now you see what it means to you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, so I think this is at this point you mentioned Jatin Talukdar, right? Yeah. So in fact, this is something that I want to introduce from this episode onwards. I'll be playing songs between the podcasts for this. Until now, it was just like talk.
Okay.
So this is the end of our first segment. You're going to be listening to Jatin Talukdar's Divergent Theory up next. Stay tuned for more. This is part 1 of Haramcore Inc. episode 4. Yes, I am here with Noiseware and we are discussing their music and the whole phenomenon that was in the first half of 2000s, the 2010s, that is djent, D-J-E-N-T, djent. The word that has been much loved, much hated, and thrown about freely, and along with other words, tag words like experimental and stuff. So, where did it all begin for you all? I know that you were into like punk and stuff. You had a band called Pristine Theorem, if I'm not wrong.
Actually, it was called Dropout Society, which was like a very pop punk band. In the sense, when I say pop punk, it was literally a Blink 182 knockoff. It was like a knockoff. It wasn't. We weren't trying to be our own thing. We were trying to be the Blink 182.
Correct.
It's the honest truth. Which kind of like when we started playing a lot, we kind of evolved and became like this confused hardcore band. The funny thing was we never listened to any hardcore. We listened to a lot of metal and we listened to a lot of punk. So we kind of naturally became like this.
Blossomed into.
And that didn't work out for whatever reasons. Kind of moved on.
Right.
There was no djent when we started writing this stuff. Djent came in maybe a year after we were doing it. In 2009.
But you all were following bands that were doing it, right? Of course.
No, so I'll tell you what. So in around 2008, 2009, Gautam and I were introduced to Meshuggah. There was no thing called as djent back then. There was this band from Sweden who was doing some very interesting metal music.
Right.
And with low tunings and stuff.
Right.
I in my pop punk band was already on a drop C, which is unusual. Pop punk is happy.
Right.
So we kind of just gradually moved towards it. So when Pristine Theorem dissolved, I was trying to teach myself to be like an audio engineer. I had like a DAW, I had like a Zoom crappy processor. I'd plug that into the computer and try and record the guitar.
Right.
So I'd send him some stuff, he would send it back to me, writing some drum parts, and we just end up writing music like that. And it was on like a 7-string because I had bought like a 7-string, and we ended up writing like 2 songs, and we were like, yeah, we should try and make this into a band. We went to Awkward and we searched guitarist, bassist, and we found the guitarist and bassist. Well, he actually showed up as a bassist, but he turned out when I called him, he was a guitar player. And he played the story till the end where I was like, okay, I'll come for jam. And what gear do you have? And he was like, yeah, I have an Ibanez GRG. And I was like, dude, that's a guitar. And that's when he found out he's not a bass player. But anyway, we found the band like that, and then we played a few shows with Karan, who was a vocalist back then. Because he was very interested in what we were doing musically.
But don't you think there were other bands that were following music like in a similar vein? Like Sikh was big with Bombay bands.
Yeah,
they were channeling,
but
those influences.
I'll tell you what. So
like you all had some
Misha hadn't become big.
Misha came much later, but I'm still talking about
the djent became big when Misha became
big.
True, it was like because he used to use the word a lot.
Right.
And it was a similar kind of vibe all over his internet. He used to just like as a fun thing use djent, and then it like blew up into something else.
Right.
But there were a lot of bands doing this kind of music.
Right.
It wasn't called djent back then.
Exactly.
But immediately, like 2009 to like 2000, cut to like 6 months from later, like 2010 or 2011, suddenly it was like djent. And then you're a djent band. But I remember when we started the band in 2009, we were an experimental metal band. I remember that. Someone had asked
But don't you think, like, maybe you all want
because that's what Meshuggah was called. So we were just like, this is the closest description to what
I think when you say experimental metal, it's not like a genre, it's more like a stage, right?
Yeah.
It's not in terms of, we're going to play experimental metal as a genre. It's just like we were incorporating whatever we were hearing and coming up with, irrespective of trying to fit within a certain thing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think
But
that's kind of
weren't you all ahead of the curveball in a way when you...
So
and it helped us.
I wouldn't say that we were innovators, but maybe we were early adopters.
Adopters, exactly.
Yeah.
Early adopters.
Yeah.
Early adopters is a safe word, and in the sense, it did help. We ended up being ahead of the curve because we didn't want to be a djent band.
But you liked the music, right? Then why did we all want to be a djent?
No. In a sense, I'll tell you this. Like, what happened was when the djent wave came, a lot of people wanted to make a djent band.
Right.
What we lucked out was we made this kind of music. At the same time, djent became like this.
Everyone wanted to be you. That's like
So-
I put it out there. Man.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to name, but like there have been scores of guys who called themselves experimental.
I remember that.
Nobody has stood the test of time either.
So we lucked out, because we never genuinely wanted to be a djent band. We just were playing that kind of music, but it became huge, which was great for us.
Right.
Because the genre really hit it up in India, and then everyone wanted to see us. Everyone wanted to hear the music. They wanted to know what we were up to. We had like the vlog going on back then. Everyone wanted to watch the vlogs.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, to answer your question very simply, early adopters who were ahead of the curve,
Right.
but not intentionally so. We never intended to be like, oh, we're going to foresee that this is going to become big because you can't.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, up till that point, metalcore was the biggest thing, but
It
we
was.
didn't want to be a metalcore band because it was big.
Like there was a period where melodic death metal was huge.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would also remember.
Yeah, I mean, it was in it.
Yeah. Because Vizia was in that.
Vaisasa.
Sorry, Vaisasa. Vizia is a different one. My bad.
Yeah, Vizia was another band. I remember that. Yeah.
Vaisasa was like mixing Carnatic influences.
Yeah.
I think.
Like I think what has happened like within the metal spectrum, I don't think like we've had a phase where a certain kind of metal has been popular for like a number of years. So it has evolved from like melodic death, metalcore, and then evolved, and now I don't even know what's the current trend.
I would say it's plateaued.
Yeah.
I don't know how many.
I honestly don't know
I think
what the
it's-
current
I think
metal,
it's-
this thing is.
Modern guitar shred Polyphia Chon is like the new.
It's the new thing, right?
Actually, that's a good observation. Yeah, this is probably like the reigning supreme for now out of all the.
And it's super cool because they're truly experimental. They're doing anything. Like let's fucking put rap, hip hop, R&B, whatever. Let's just do whatever.
Yeah.
Other bands that you all dig, any bands that you guys.
12 Foot Ninja, Textures
Right.
for a very long time. Now they're not.
No, like from the new scene, like 12 Foot also been around for a while, so I wouldn't know. Like you said,
Polyphia?
Yeah,
Polyphia would be
Definitely, Polyphia, Chon.
Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah,
they've
well,
been around.
I mean, Bringing the Rise
Yeah.
has been around for a while, but I honestly never liked them in the deathcore phase. But
Right.
their new material for me is amazing.
Yeah.
As pop metal as it is, I love it. It's well produced. It's very crisp, and I always like kind of tend to lean forward.
It's well done. Like,
It's well done.
It's like you can see, there's a mass appeal there, but it's well done. It's
Right.
tasty.
It's well
so,
done. Yeah. And we're not very
there's
close.
even the Contortionist like evolved that way.
Oh yeah.
Even they moved on from being like a deathcore band to like being.
Well,
Yeah.
I kind of love them back when they were in that exoplanet mid phase. I love that sound. Maybe even more than the new stuff.
Pat probably
But-
would have is probably more aware of like, cause he's
a listener.
yeah, I think
Yeah, I was quite like a listener.
he's
back
like an
in the day.
encyclopedia. if you may.
Yeah, but we really listen to everything. I mean, in a sense, not as a cliche, but like it's not like we don't listen to metal anymore. That's also kind of a cool thing to say. If you play in a metal band, I don't listen to metal. We absolutely listen to metal, but we also listen to like London Grammar or like Banks or like
Album Leaf,
like post rock or just like whatever kind of appeals to us. Him and I were on way here to Bombay today. We were talking about how we've kind of taken a step back and started being listeners rather than critically just
So
whatever comes your way, it's
what
critically
kind of
breaking it down.
happened? Yeah, to the same conversation we are having was that in the last 10 years as part of being a part of the band and part of the scene, you become like such a critic of everything. You go as like a musician, you watch
or
everything.
even you listen
So
to
everything is like any band you watch, it's like
I don't
it
like
was
this.
great, but the sound, the
Yeah, it's always like this.
mids come high, it's like that kind of thing. You don't go out and enjoy it
So
anymore.
this, I will, the access to home production. This is something I've always mentioned, like even previously with bands. So the more accessible production and things has gotten.
More people become experts.
हाँ, so like expert हो तो मतलब अलग level के expert बन जाते हैं. So yeah, that criticism, like you said, like it gets in the way.
We were talking about it because it's kind of the same. Like he's a designer, and we were talking about this, like how everyone has an opinion on design.
Right.
Like the font should be this or blah blah blah. It's the same thing it became with music.
Right.
Like your guitars should sound a certain way, or you should write music a certain way. Which we've become kind of conscious of that, and we have stepped away from it. We don't like enjoy music as a listener, like forget about everything and just so it is good. You kind of open up to everything and you're not closed. Because when we were young, often what happens with a lot of people is when you start listening to metal, you become a kind of like a purist. Then it's like, oh, this is the best thing, and then I listen to only this. And if you listen to something else, oh well, you're not truly into metal. But that's not the case. You can enjoy metal as well as you can enjoy everything else. So yeah, we kind of over there basically.
It's like metal doesn't need to be a phase basically. And you can always enjoy it at any age and any time, and you can also enjoy other stuff. So I don't know why it has to be like one way or the other for the majority of people. It's like long hair metal, next day cut hair and shave beard and no more metal.
No, people have started becoming more open to such things.
Yeah.
So, like on the last podcast, I was talking to Stark Denial,
Right.
and they are huge into Alcest.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah.
do you all check out? Have you all heard?
I mean, I've only heard about the Bangalore open air controversy, kind of like loosely.
You be paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't help it. It's like on Facebook, if there's something blows up, it just like blows up, and everyone's like pissed off.
But yeah, have you checked out Ancestor?
No, musically, I haven't done
It might probably strike a chord because you might dig the post-rock vibes on it and
cool.
the arrangements being in that space.
Right, I should
know,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but they're fusing that with black gaze is what they call it. So shoegazy black.
Oh.
So
That's a very whacked out combination.
Dude, there's a lot of interesting styles and stuff that's like come out. So since you all are saying that people should be more open to listening, there's actually a lot of interesting crossovers happening.
Yeah.
There's this band from Pune that I interviewed on the first episode called False Flag. So they are doing something called emo violence.
I've heard False Flag. They're like this slight punkish vibe.
Yeah. So crust punk is what their core is, but then they're emo violence because they're incorporating this sound called power violence. It's like really gnarly sounding, like really distorted, clippy sounding.
Oh yeah, that's like dirty sounding.
Yeah, like grindcore meets. It's in that very like it's like the word is itself like power violence.
Right.
So it's basically extreme hardcore.
Right.
Like really extreme hardcore, but they're mixing that with emotive hardcore, so emo. So
I'm happy to check it out. Like
and it's political.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
that's like a fine line in India.
yeah, so I mean,
political.
like so experimental is like happening around us.
It is.
People don't have to call it that. It's very interesting where music is going. So I would say the critique is essential in the sense that there are some people who are smart enough to see, the sense in merging two styles of music.
Right.
Like it doesn't have to be like really lame. Like there are bands who like Shaktiman gent version banane ko jayega.
Yeah,
that is stupid. Like that is like really like dumb. Like you can have fun doing it.
But that's the thing. Like I'll tell you what, it's a good example. But then there's someone who's done it well. Like I've seen the Bloodywood stuff and like those guys. I
was just coming to that. So there are people who are doing that kind of stuff, which is fun, esoteric. Okay, time pass listening. Okay, but then there's like really serious, like deep music. Like that's. It's adding up to a certain listening experience, a certain expression, a certain thought, a narrative. Part of something bigger. Yeah. There are other bands that are pushing it in different territories and stuff.
Yeah.
So like that's what experimental the word means in 2018. Rain check, boys and girls of the internet in the metal sphere. That's what it means to be experimental today. So talking about acts like Bloodywood, even Jatin Talukdar for that matter.
Yeah.
So guys who essentially, like you all were a bedroom project technically at one point.
We were.
I mean, it is the genesis of the genre itself.
Yeah.
Like everyone started out in a bedroom, producing their own music, sharing stuff on the internet, and internet-driven, community as such. So, I see these guys taking huge strides. They're like the big deal now because Bloodywood's like probably the 4th most followed Indian act.
Man, they're doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Even their original music is really good. So.
Yeah, they've just started putting up original music as well, right? So, I mean, would you guys say if y'all were starting a band in 2018, like, if y'all were back, y'all were back to being 18, 19, whatever, would you all be doing something like that? Do you all see yourselves doing something like that?
I don't think there's a clear answer to that.
I actually think there's a pretty clear answer. Like, I don't think so. Like, as much as like that stuff is fun, and I enjoy watching it if it's done well, which is again a fine line because you can have stuff which is very poorly done, and it's there's a clear difference where someone can do it well and someone's doing it just to have like social media traction. I think Bloodywood is like the one of the few guys who kind of like are also like doing it really nicely, well produced stuff with a lot of thought, effort. Doing more than just the music, all of that.
Right.
We don't think we would do that because our musical taste as musicians and what we want to do as a musician is very different from as a listener.
Right.
While that stuff is very cool as listeners, if I pick up my guitar, it's not what's naturally going to come to me.
Right.
Even if I was 18 today, So I don't think. But I think if we were just like 18 today, I think we'd probably be writing something like, I don't know, like the BMTH stuff maybe. Because that's like, honestly, like...
well, I don't know. We've taken like the long road to get to where we are today in terms of what we make as music also. In the sense of like the long ladder of, going from RHCP to Megadeth to In Flames to Trivium to Meshuggah, which has all then kind of become like this, come together to make what we make.
Whether you like it or not, in a very small way, everything that you listen to ends up when you pick up a guitar or when you try and sing. All of those things, at some point, you'll always find yourself remembering something that you like from, say, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and you'll be like, it could be something like a groove, like a triplet groove that you're like, oh, I could use this here, and you don't actively do it. I don't want to make this like Red Hot Chili Peppers meets Meshuggah, but it's just a part of your musical journey that kind of comes out when you're trying to write music. That's really what it is, Yeah, so I don't know. It's a tough question, but I definitely, like, for me it's a clear answer. I don't think I would be writing that kind of music for sure. Maybe it would. I think for me it would still be very modern sounding because one of the key things how I got into heavy music was listening to modern metal bands. There's always two schools, right? People who grew up listening to Metallica and the people who grew up listening to Linkin Park. I was a Linkin Park kid who was 12 and I heard and I was like, wow, what is this sound? And it sounded not in terms of like the mix, just like the production elements, like what are the guitars doing? What is this sampler doing? For me, that was like opening my mind up, so I'd probably still be attempting something which is modern sounding.
So, but like, what brings me to that question is that, say Warwan, for example. So, like, they want to do the whole, periphery meets Hindi
vocal. Hindi rock,
So, that's their thing.
So, Warwan is like the controversy band from this room, right? It's a perfect place to talk about them.
So they're like this band from Delhi, who are like they're pretty much like if I had to like do a one-liner about them, it's like Hindi periphery. Like it's also an oversimplification at some time for some people.
I thought it more like August Burns Red.
If for a more nuanced listener, they could probably comment better. Like since I just know surface tier modern.
I mean, they're pretty cool. They're doing like all the music videos and stuff. And at some point, I think there was like an episode where there was something spoken about them and a lot of people got butthurt and some people they really took it like, I don't want to get into what happened, but like they became like this thing of controversy at some point.
So using the internet, so like they like to caption their videos with like metal meets Hindi, like like it's never been done before. So that kind of like memification of their music so that it reaches a bigger audience. So what do you all think about, since you all agree that purists, like music shouldn't be a purist space. Like, do you think that's like that could be a way forward? I mean,
it could be a way forward for them in the sense like if that is the way you want to look, everything that you write, your music is in the end a product. Now whether you package it as a purist, like I play only real guitar amps and we record in a room all together and we make music which is in that kind of a vibe, or I'm actively saying like, look, this is Hindi with metal. You're selling and you're kind of, it's like you're literally on the street and you're selling it to the guys passing by. People shouldn't get butthurt by like how the vendor is really calling out a sale. It's not your business. You like it, you stop by and you take what you want. If you don't, just kind of walk on the street. You can't just be like walking by and someone just saying that I'm serving you masala chai and you're like, hey, how can you say you're selling masala chai? It's literally that. That's what it is. So if you want to call it Hindi metal, and if there are 5,000 people,
they can use those captions and stuff like that.
That's the thing. If 5,000 people get attracted and they listen to your stuff and they're like, wow, great music, good for you.
I think it's social media 101, right? You got to put some certain tags and you got to write certain things to get people to see it.
I mean, it's the same thing.
Think that's
like,
okay,
whether you're a band like Alcest or whether you're a black metal band, whatever, everyone has this certain persona, a certain vibe, a certain style of music, end-to-end something that you're trying to do, and it's about whatever works for you. There shouldn't, in my opinion,
works for you being the key. You want to, like, you genuinely deliberate attempt that this is going to sell, and then you try and make something in the same way.
Because honestly, dude, like it could be like an average guy who's a lot into like Hindi music or Hindi Bollywood music or whatever, and he one day sees something Hindi with metal and his definition of metal is Metallica. He probably goes and checks out this band and he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And that's what it should be.
Why and there's a larger percentage of such listeners out there than people who know their shit.
So, and to each his own, really.
Right. So, coming back to, the whole explosion of experimental / djent.
Yeah.
So the sound persisted quite a bit. Like even contemporary bands are still using the sound.
Yeah.
I mean, and not like I wouldn't say that as a in a bad way. Like it's a natural influence. It's the stuff that they've seen. They're influenced by. They've incorporated into their sound. And what do you all feel about where you all stand with contemporaries like say Goddess Gact or
Right.
there's obviously a crossover influence happening. There's Scribe also, like they were very different when they started out. They were very different when they reached even post Mark of Teja, like even on Hail Mogambo they were very different. So do you all see the scene influencing itself in a good way, like in that sense? Do you think it's actually like building a small, like how Seattle, there's a Seattle sound.
Yeah.
Is there a Bombay, Pune, a gent modern metal sound?
I think you would probably be the best person to answer that.
I don't know. I don't think so necessarily. While I agree with your statement that everyone's kind of contributing to each other's musicianship evolving, because you might see some other band doing something and you're like, hey, I should also try something like that, or in whatever way. It could inspire you to pick up your guitar and write something. We are, but I honestly I don't know if I've phased out, but I kind of feel like we kind of plateaued in terms of heavy music for a while now. Plateaued in the sense, there are bands who are doing great things. But I don't think it's like you can listen to it and be like, oh, that's the Indian metal sound. Like you said, like that's the Seattle metal. I don't think we've evolved as a Indian music scene that much where you could literally just listen to something and be like, oh,
but I think 10 years is enough for something to grow. I mean, y'all have been around for 9. There are bands that have been around for 15, 18, roughly, give or take, in different eras of even Bombay scene. And I would say Bombay scene and Pune scene are interlinked pretty much.
Right.
And there was a definite sound, I would say. There definitely, I would like to say that.
Well, I think
there was a sound of the Pune scene which I was responsible for. I know you're kind of implying that. And that was
as a producer or?
I think I was a producer because I was literally doing like every band under the sun. So yeah, that was a time.
The Noiseware snare sound is it's
I know
reached,
that's
like far and wide, all the way to Bangalore and even the Northeast probably.
Yeah. Everyone was like obsessed because they would just listen to the setup and come to the studio and be like, dude, can you make my snare sound like that?
So you do agree that things got redundant at quite a few points.
And I would say maybe that was one of the reasons why you said we were around for 9 years, but maybe I would subtract 5 out of that, which is like this pure state of like limbo. But I think for all the many reasons, like whether it was finding our careers or finding ourselves as musicians or whatever, we kind of just like hit like this stale phase where we were actually writing a lot of music. That's the unfortunate thing, but it's that phase where you don't like anything that you do. You're super critical and like analytical about everything that you do. So we were like this material that actually came out, a lot of it was written years ago.
Right. Okay. We'll get to that. I want to discuss
but it was just like we were in the state of limbo where you become so critical as a musician, as this thing where you're just like, it's not good enough. It's not fresh enough. It's not the newest thing on the block, where you kind of disconnect from your writing for the emotional connect that you have with your music and not whether it's good enough. And when we kind of like overcame that, I think is when I don't know if sonically, like, because I've digressed a little bit sonically, except for this whole phase of like the Pune home recordings happening at Refractor, I don't know if we found a sound.
What do you think about the whole Pune that I forget which there was those CO2 gigs? Oh fuck, dude. That was a different sound than Pune. You hear how they said, oh yeah, like it's a
no, I was just like, I forgot. It's like this refresh button.
Seems like a long time ago.
I'm here to like refresh your memory.
Where was CO2?
CO2 Aung Baner side. When Baner Road used to be like a very like
I don't think I've
place.
been there.
Baner was like this.
That was like a really long time back.
Very long time.
I mean,
that's when you even had bands in Pune that start to end sounded the same. Like you would go to the gig, band one to the last band.
I remember like thrash was like huge back then, right?
No. Thrash came about when Haramcore stepped into the scene.
Yeah.
And then like there were a couple of thrash bands, those Deface and a couple of other acts. Anarchy came about later.
Right. I do remember it, but it's like this distant memory now, to be honest. Yeah, for me,
you got like forgettable memories, huh?
I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but yeah. I don't know, man. Pune scene kind of like died like this slow death, where like there's a lot of happening, and it kind of just like a very evenly went down slope, because it was like band plus crowd.
Right.
Then it was bands left, bands would attend bands gigs, and now there's nothing. Like it's just. I mean, there's still bands who are trying
we had a stab at trying to do shit for 2 years. We had a string of some steady things happening.
Yeah.
But even like that,
nothing's really been able to sustain. Like there's this time where there were gigs happening again.
No venues being like
a reverse scenario and stuff was happening. Where suddenly it was 400 people at gigs, and I was like, wow, is it back? No, it was just it's kind of. It's unfortunate. It's whatever. If metal is not the flavor of the month or whatever you want to call it, but
I wouldn't say that. I would just say that once again, it just boils down to access. Because when gigs were happening at Wakad, they were all right. Sometimes there was a lot of guts, fervor and gusto, and people used to turn up. But when we moved it to FC Road, and then you all also played on at the same venue, and that's when people would really show up because access. It's close by. People will show up.
Yeah.
And then the moment that venue shutting down, people losing business, police, all of that, that being the backbone.
No, I mean it kind of because Blue Frog was around for a while, and honestly, Blue Frog was a pretty great venue for
access. Once again,
man, I would say Blue Frog
would go that far. I know dozens of people from the scene who wouldn't go that far.
I don't know why, because I actually thought it was okay looking.
And plus, they'd only give Wednesday night. And plus they'd give only Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
So weekday gigs have never happened in Pune. It's never been a thing.
Yeah.
So that's the unfortunate state of affairs. Right now, Rohit Jalgaonkar is trying to do a good thing by starting the metal brunch, which happens at Unwind.
Unwind, and we're playing on the 16th as a part of a tour at the gig.
Yes.
Yeah, the good thing going there was I happened to kind of attend the last one.
Yeah,
it was all fresh.
Nice.
There were the people
new faces,
which is a good thing. You don't have the same old stagnant scene, and new faces coming in always is a good sign. So let's see, interesting phase.
Alright, so one song that y'all will be looking forward to playing at Pune, you had suggested Europa, right?
Yeah, I actually would go between Europa or Clouds at Last.
Clouds at Last, right?
Yeah, either.
So let our listeners have a dig at it. This is the next track, Europa. You're listening to Haramcore Inc. Haramcore Inc. With me are Aman, Aniket, and Adiraj from Noiseware.
What's up?
Happy to be here.
Happy to be called Aniket.
That's oh fuck! I remember like Adiraj had put out this once.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Patni.
I was like this
Time to
joke.
switch off the mic.
It was like
right
this one
now.
Diwali back in like 2010 where I don't like to go out and burst crackers, and I was like, yeah, how do I do? And I was like snoodling on the guitar, and it was just like this joke which ended up being a song, and then it kind of like worked against him because everyone at gigs would come to him and tell him, "Ketlo Kyuche Patni."
Right.
Yeah, I don't think he's very happy about that.
Yeah, I know he wasn't back then also.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of memes y'all used
Yeah,
to make around
it
with
was.
each other's photos and shit.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so coming from Ketlo cute shape Patni to troll face and like I said at to clouds at last.
Yeah.
So and the interim where you all took time to restructure, repurpose yourselves, fine.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the central theme of the album as well. So I mean that's my assumption. So
Kind of is. I mean, like, yeah, the album was kind of like themed around like self-discovery or just
Right.
like introspection and stuff,
Right.
which ended up being again by chance order one of the things that really got this band back on its feet
Right.
was because we kind of realized this limbo, this apathy that we
Developed.
had towards it, and then kind of like refound like the motivation as to why we used to do this, because that's very important, especially if you're doing something which is metal, where you're not able to take your music live, or whether you're not able to reach a large amount of audience or whatever.
Right.
If you're able to still stay true to as to why you do it, I think then you kind of like able to like go on and keep doing what you're doing. So we kind of like found our motivation or the essence of why we do what we do again, and then
Right.
yeah, just kind of
So how did you all go about writing this album? So I remember that you all used to record and send riffs over on the internet and stuff. So did you all do that, do the same thing over a period of time, then just recompile stuff? How did it go?
Kinda, yeah. Recompile would be a good word to use because some of this material has been written almost back in like 2013, I would say. Yeah, some of the material like Pyroflight is a really old song, but it still was relevant enough for us.
I think Solar was also.
Solar was an old song as well. I mean, like, but it was just like stuff which is still relevant, and it was what happened. We wrote these songs and we really connected it with our time, and then we went into like this over critical phase where we were like, "Oh, it's not good enough," it just not our sound or whatever you want to call it. And then when we find out, when we were like, okay, we have to finish this what we've started, then we realized that these songs are actually great songs, and we still connected with them, and then we still felt them the same way we did when we wrote them, and then they ended up being on. The process remained the same because it hasn't changed very much since the beginning of the band. It's usually I write
Was it
them.
like a conscious effort to not be a typical gent band,
You mean in terms of like
when you
what
all
we
were
did with the
critical
album?
about your music when you all were writing it?
No.
Well, I think it
Because
was.
it is very easy to get self-conscious when everyone else is out there aping it, doing it.
Well,
how do you stand out?
It was kind of.
It's a natural
It was a function of what we were individually going through at that time in terms of what we were listening to and what we felt was good music and what we wanted to make as
Right.
individuals. So maybe in the beginning, which is why, like Adiraj said, like some of the material didn't get used and for a long time, and then we finally got it back because at a point when we were writing, it was like, oh, this is not interesting enough. Then it became, oh, this is way too interesting. There's too much going on. So because there were different phases where we were like kind of going through this thing of what we wanted to kind of do, and I think it finally came down to a point where it was then time bound, and then
Yeah, the time bound was like a conscious thing because we were like, man, if you don't put a deadline to anything, you're never gonna finish it.
So you all were like sitting on an hour's worth of material easy. Or more, I don't know.
I think it would have been an hour considering all the other smaller demos that never made it to the album. And then some stuff was written fairly newer, I mean like recently, maybe in the last year or two, like right before the album and stuff. There's definitely newer material on the album which was written very recently.
And it was easier to get those songs and complete them because then we kind of like defined, filtered through all that we had sitting there, and then all the material that really connected and everything that evolved post that. Was it?
And then we were doing like this whole, we were working towards like a theme that we all internally wanted to explore. And it's not like we never really sold this as a concept theme album as such very much. But for us internally, that was our internal logic, and we had to stay true to that logic when we were doing everything. Whether it was
that kind of added like some sort of a discipline in approach.
Like because like a lot of bands do that. Like this is a thematic album, and this is the way you should receive it.
Right.
For us, it wasn't that, but for internally, it was very important to stay true to that. To stay true
I
to
think
it.
it kind of reflects, like the album plays pretty much start to end as like a single piece as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, you all are huge fans. Even I think that's probably the best product that has come from this whole phenomenon is fucking Concealing Fate, dude. Like everyone bows their hat. Like they will tip their hat to it.
That's like one of the things that will never really go out of fashion because it was such a well-done album.
It won't.
Yeah.
I can testify that's going to stand the test of time. So I mean, and that's like a complete like start to end listening experience, right?
Yep.
So,
but then I think as a counterpoint, the interesting thing with us was that all of these songs were written over like 8 years. So it wasn't like one set monolith. This is how it's going to be, So there are like Adhiraj said Paraflight from like 7 years ago, and then there is Vortex from like months before the album.
So Europa was like, I think it was like the finished like literally, I don't know, maybe like a month or two before we hit the studio, maybe a month. It was like pretty.
And that kind of like stood out also for you all, right? Like, kind of like your.
Yeah, we were. So that's the thing.
What is really interesting is like there was a song like Europa which came, and then there was a song like Vortex which came.
Right. And they were both
and they were like
songs.
extreme like end of the spectrum, if I could say that. So I mean, we kind of like once I think had like a defined deadline in place. Right. We were kind of motivated enough to like get everything out of whatever had inspired us to create that in the first place, and
it helps. It helps. It's like anything. Like if you're working on a creative project, it could be a film. That's how Hollywood films work. It's not like they have all the time in the world to really put out a film. You have a release date and then you work exponentially and you work all
coming back to work ethic. So that's like one of the key, learnings.
I think that's what eventually would be the defining factor.
Yeah, like right now for us, we don't treat ourselves with any baggage or any weight we may have had as a Noiseware from 2012 or 2010, where we were like this very known. No, forget that. Forget the troll. Like people started thinking, in Indian music landscape, you always have like this is a big band, and I would say to a certain extent people perceive us also like this is a big band, whatever that means. Even I'm not sure.
Like stalwarts,
there. So that's because we kind of introduced that sound to the scene. Like I said, like imitators were aplenty.
But this entire album cycle for us, whether it's putting out the album, whether it's doing the music video, whether it's playing this tour, so we kind of like shed all that baggage, and we were like. Moving forward, we're going to treat ourselves as any other new band that's trying to do something.
Right.
Mentally, we're at, honestly, I say this without any ego or whatever, we're at the same level as a Jatin, Talukdar project.
On today's bill,
I don't necessarily see ourselves as I remember I told Adit also, we don't have to headline your show.
It just
we don't care,
like call any band stalwart.
Right now we're not, and we're trying to obviously bring in a level of musicianship which would make the listener's experience great. You don't want to come to a show to watch a band jam. You want them to have a larger than life
experience. Depends on the band you're talking about. Once again, yeah, sure.
Either way, even if you're a jam post-rock band, you want the listener to have this larger than life experience. And that's what I mean. Like you could be a jammy band, but you're so good at what you do that the listener in the end goes home
feels a part of you.
And that's our thing moving forward, whether it's musically, whether it's playing today's show, whatever. Like forget like what we were, what we did. It's irrelevant. Like today we're a brand new band with a brand new approach.
I kind of feel that way because
everything's changed, and that's the reason why like we're not the band who's trolling anymore. We are taking a fresh approach, and it's because we don't want to be just rehashing the same stuff or whatever, and we don't want to be taking a step on what we did in the past. Forget about that, It's irrelevant right now. Like in the end, what you do now, because in India it happens if you're a 10-year-old band, you're what do you call it? There's this term for it. It's thrown on a lot of shows. You're a senior band. Senior band. Veteran. Man, I don't want to be at that. Even if I'm 40 years old, I want to be still treated as any other band on the bill, I mean, the respect. If
now there are veterans in the audience also.
I've heard of that actually. So it's just that approach. Like,
I think the more immune you are to all of everything else that gets thrown around in the scene. I think.
Yeah. Like for us, it's purely about work ethic now. Like we like doing this. We genuinely like doing this.
There's really no reason for us to like really be making the music.
Yeah, it's a passion project for us, and we're gonna treat it with the respect that we would treat our day job, our relationships, the respect we do for anything. If we want to do it, we're going to treat it with the same level of respect and work ethic and really push it and try and do our best with it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we don't want to have that hollow feeling inside of you where you were just like messing around or doing it for like social media traction or whatever the hell it is. It's not true to yourself. And that's what this album was about, staying true to your motivations and why you want to do this. So it's like this one big
kind of answered your first question.
Also,
So I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Killer, man.
Yeah.
So, speaking of moving on into Noiseware 2.0, you all have a new member on board, Sambit Chatterjee, of previously of Ganesh Talkies and of I think What Escapes Me, right?
I don't think it's previously, by the way. He's very much a part of those bands, but he's also a part of Noiseware.
That's how drummers are, right? Yeah, I have a special reservation for drummers on the podcast. Right. But Sambit's a good he's a cool guy. I played the Rage Against the Machine tribute recently with him, and I'm teaching him how to be a banter now that he's in
and switch from being a Bengali.
So given that the whole gari-b shtick is also happening for me, so I've been schooling him in like the banter.
Right on.
So the moment we meet, it's like that's the first greeting we have. But yeah, how's it going? I think it's amazing. He has learned all the songs and he's nailing it. Saw the video that you all put out with him.
It's been a great ride actually. He has an insane work ethic, which is kind of like further injected more fresh blood into our process because we were on the Europe tour, me and Bob. So Noiseware was taking a break for like 2 months because we were just not there, and then we came back and we were like, okay, we have a tour which we've been wanting to do for a while, and then we had already spoken to Sambit about being a part of the band, and he said cool. But he's had literally, I think, a week to pick up the material that we're going to play today, and he's really like put in his life into it, and he surprised us. I mean, there's like a song like Vortex. When he sent it to us, it was me, Aman, and Bob. We used to do drummerless jams, just put the drums on the PA, just stay in touch. We got into my car and we heard Vortex, and there's a certain segment which comes in the end. It just threw us off. It was literally like he was playing our songs better than us, where we had like the moment of like, whoa, how did he just do that? So it's been very good having him because it's like a fresh approach, a fresh perspective, and a fresh work ethic, and a work ethic which we are inspired by. I've actually told him this, that right now seeing it as the amount of time and effort you really put into this, it's inspiring for me to like do everything for this band as well, and push all of us to push ourselves more. So it's been a very good ride so far.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking you all live with him. And you all sounded like insane on the PA. The bass drops were like going all the way to my bones.
Right on. So, looking forward to it.
Yes, BlackBlood tonight. So that's pretty much it. Like
ending on a very solemn note.
I know. I mean, what happened to K Lowell?
I mean, it's still very much there.
It's still very much there. I don't think that's ever gonna go away.
Yeah. I think people, should fuck with you all also more, so you all get to troll them back.
Yeah. I mean, like, bring it on.
You're not missing that, right?
Bring it on.
I'm sure Adiraj is missing it because.
I mean, like, dude, you never know. Like, you have this online, and then someone would have gotten offended by something we said, and then it'll be like troll universe.
Okay, we'll hunt for them. That's what Haramcore Inc is here for. Like, I have a reputation to live up to now.
Amazing, yeah.
Awesome.
Disrepute, rather. Alright, that's pretty much it. 4th episode comes to an end with Noiseware. We have
Adiraj Singh,
Pats or Aniket, please.
Aman.
And me.
It's funny, I said my full name, but yeah.
And we shall end with the title track from the album Clouds at Last. Check it out and stay Haramcore.